What are some things we want to build into the lives of men and women that we want to help them with? The first one I call a defense. Build a good defense. We're all sports fans, most likely living in Clemson, so we're going to talk defense and offense. When we help other people, primarily we've been doing defense. So this is kind of the same old. The first one that I'm going to talk about is this idea of abstinence. Now that seems like behavior modification. That's that first blank, abstain. But it comes from Scripture, 1 Peter 2:11. Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh, which war against your soul. Step one in a good defense when struggling with sexual sin, I mean, Will was mentioning it. You got to try really hard not to see this stuff. Abstinence is part of the program. Now, it is not the program. A lot of times we have proclaimed it as the program, but it is part of the program. I have to tell these young men that I'm helping, each and every day, we're saying no to the flesh. It will never get easier. Well, maybe it'll get easier, but it will never go away, right? It's always going to be there. Every single day we must abstain. So that's the first part of the program. The second thing we want to look at is this idea of building boundaries into our lives. One of the things I know about American Christians, we do not have good boundaries in terms of what we watch or what we listen. How do I know this? Well, if the majority of Americans call themselves Christians and look at the stuff that is selling in our culture, and it's very profitable, so we know that Christians do not have good boundaries for what they watch or what they listen to. I have fought this on campus as well. Last year, my seniors, 3 of them skipped Bible study, they skipped Bible study, to go and watch the movie Deadpool. Now, you hopefully haven't seen that movie, but you may remember the media coverage of Deadpool it was a Marvel movie that had such graphic sexuality that the secular media was saying, wow, that's a lot of sexuality, right? That was the report coming from the media. And so my students go and watch this movie. What's my conversation look like with them? Well, I was upset, okay. But I said to them, okay, so you support the pornography industry. And then, no, it's an action movie. All right, well, how much porn does it take to make it a porn? And so we tend to say, it's an action movie. There's a 5-minute porn scene, no big deal. My students said to me, we closed our eyes. I said, no. You are supporting the pornography industry. We've got a producer who has told an actress and an actor to do things on the camera. We call that pornography. You have supported it by your purchasing of that ticket and your butt in the seat, right? How much porn does it take before we'll call something what it is? This is not a Christian liberty issue. It's not a what can I do as a Christian. I've tried to encourage my students with this. It's a question of what is it that will help me in my pursuit of Christ and my pursuit of holiness. Does watching that movie, does listening to that music, does it help you in your battle against the flesh, or does it hinder you? Paul said all things are lawful, but not all things are permissible. All things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial, right? So I've got the illustration there of Parable of the Donut. That comes from Randy Alcorn, his book, The Purity Principle. He gives this parable of a man who's overweight. He's trying to lose weight, and so he decides, I'm not going to eat any more donuts. And he tells everyone, no more donuts. Tells his wife, no more donuts. What does he do? He listens to donut music. He watches donut television. He sees donut ads everywhere and checks them out when he can. He drives by the donut store every day to work. What's the eventual conclusion when he goes into the donut store to get a cup of coffee? He's probably going to eat some donuts, right? In a lot of ways, this is what Christians are doing. We have no boundaries in our life. We're watching sexually provocative movies, television, listening to sexually provocative music. If we're going to shepherd somebody in this area, we've got to help them build good boundaries in their life. Next one I want to talk about is education. That's kind of what we're doing right here. We need to get an education on the issues of pornography, look at some of the facts, look at some of the figures, look at some of the solutions. So on this example of education, I'll share a story about a freshman I had a few years ago. I had a freshman, solid Christian kid from a phenomenal Christian home, and at his freshman year, he called me to meet because he wanted to share once again, not the first time I had heard, about his struggle with his pornography. So he's bewildered as to why he continues to struggle with this sin. So I shared with him some of the brain research that I shared with you, and I said to him, hey man, you're basically a crack addict. Now he was really encouraged when I told him that. And that may not seem encouraging to you, but you see, it was encouraging for him to know you are not an epic failure. You are dealing with one of the most addictive forces in the entire universe. He needed to know, hey man, you got the odds stacked up against you. You're going to need some serious help. You need a period of detox for you to get to a place of healing. Giving him this education, as difficult as his path to healing was helpful for him to see the path and the direction that he needed to go. Well, we don't stop there with education. We have got to take a bigger look at the porn industry in the first place. So for me, challenging my students, hey, you support the porn industry by watching those things. We've got to have an education about what the pornography industry is all about. What is it that is promoting the sexual trafficking and abuse of children in our world today? It is pornography. Pornography is fueling the demand for the trafficking and abuse of children. 20% of internet pornography is child sexual abuse. We are promoting that with every click, with every view, with every video that we watch. We are supporting that industry. If somebody had told me that when I was an 18-year-old freshman sitting in school, hey, by the way, do you think the people that you're watching in these videos, do you think they're highly paid actors and actresses that have chosen in their own free time to just have a side gig doing some of these roles? What if some of these people have been enslaved, trafficked, drugged, and abused, and that's why they're in these situations? And we know that that takes place, so there's no way for me to know that what I was looking at was paid actors and actresses, right? The pornography industry is promoting, they are enforcing what we see with the sex trafficking of women and children in our world today. We all know Dina Rapp and her ministry, Rivers of Justice. She was the one who asked me to be speaking on this topic because everything that she looked at with the trafficking and abuse of children pointed to porn. Porn was fueling the demand. We must educate our people. Christians must be educated. What you're doing is not the lie you've heard your whole life. This doesn't hurt anyone. We've got to get that lie out of here. We need an education about what pornography is really doing. And in this education, this is where the scriptures come in. Let's look at God's design for sexuality. Let's be proactive, get our young people God's design before they ever even struggle. And then the last one we're going to look at here is accountability. I'll move through this one kind of quickly. What we see with accountability, confession with an accountability partner, somebody that is holding you accountable. This is where we talk about software, Covenant Eyes. I think Covenant Eyes software at this point, it's kind of like health insurance. Hey, everybody needs it. We live in a digital age where this is, I don't even let my students argue with me anymore. I'm just like, no, you need accountability software. Why not? What's the con? A couple bucks a month? We need to have accountability software built in. I think, and we can talk about this later, but I think the church should get a group plan for Covenant Eyes. Get as many people on it as we can. Let's get our families educated about that one. The last one is groups. Will already put a commercial in for me for the Conquer series. Steve and I had this conversation last summer where I said, why wouldn't we have 85 to 90% of our men go through this in the next few years? What's the con? Let's get educated. Not all of them are struggling, I know that, but those that aren't struggling, they need to get educated so they can come alongside somebody and help them. I think that's a huge thing that we could do in this accountability piece.